Please go ahead and start eating your salads. We're waiting on 3 more couples, and as soon as they arrive, I hate to get started and then miss it. But please go ahead and start enjoying the salad in front of you. What you have in front of you is Lucy's famous pistachio salad. The cup in front of that is the balsamic vinaigrette. Usually when Lucy makes it, she makes it in a big bowl. Sorry, the theme of, if everybody doesn't know who I am, I'm William Furlong. This is Lucy Pretty. She assists me in the classes, but has for more than a year now, so she's as much part of the class as I am. She and I went to Ole Miss together and have been best friends since first day freshman year. This is her famous salad. The theme of the class is obviously cooking for couples. Oh, sorry. Come on in. How are you? Is cooking for couples. In the recipe book tonight, you have normal sized recipes, and my goal was to show you how to make the recipes work for couples. So in front of you, you have the Lucy's pistachio salad, and it's full of good stuff. It's on some organic baby spring mix with red, yellow, and orange bell peppers or some diced red onion. Lucy cut up some fresh avocado that luckily this time of year we have some perfect avocados. Goat cheese and green pistachios, and it's all finished and usually tossed in that balsamic vinaigrette. When you make it in a larger size, or if you make it for 2 at home, if you make it in the bowl and you toss it, the creaminess of the avocado and creaminess of the goat cheese make that vinaigrette almost a creamy dressing. So you still get the same effect, sort of, when you dissect it, but I wanted you to see how beautiful the salad was before it was tossed, so that it didn't look like a pile of lumpy lettuce on a plate. There's something about the balsamic vinaigrette and the creaminess of the cream cheese and the creaminess of the avocado that make it, I think, really special. And when you find all the other flavors together. Lucy, you want to tell them about the salad, how you came about it?
Yeah, my senior year at Ole Miss, I worked for a professor named Dr. Udine, and his wife, also named Dr. Udine. She taught my sister and me how to make Middle Eastern style food. She was from Pakistan, and she lived in Egypt and other countries, and this was her pistachio salad, and her version has no lettuce. So you can imagine how expensive it is to make this salad with no lettuce and provide a very filling meal. So she would put any hard vegetable and any hard fruit that was in season, but the key were the pistachios and the cheese. And she would dress it with just oil and vinegar.
I guess to start, I can show you, before we get started, before everybody, the last couple of couples get here, I can show you Lucy's version of the dressing is the recipe that you have in your book. But she puts her ingredients together and shakes it. But I like to emulsify a vinaigrette. It just means whip it in a food processor, or you can whip it by hand, but that's a lot more work. Does anybody need a little bit more dressing? I've got some dressing started here. I know that little 2-ounce cup of balsamic is a lot of vinaigrette, isn't it? It's a lot more flavor. Well, I'll do a small sampling for you just to show you the vinaigrette. Lucy's recipe starts with a grated shallot, but if you do it in the food processor, you can skip that step. You can just peel your shallot and chop it a little bit and drop it into the food processor. The shallots, they're available at just about every grocery store. If you can't find a shallot, use a little piece of a red onion. It's just about the same thing. Shallots are just smaller red onions. They're in the same family. It's just like the difference between a green onion and a leek. Sometimes you can find, maybe at Sam's that has the peeled shallots, like they have the peeled garlic. But I know Kroger has them. I don't know if Walmart has them. Corner Market almost always has them. But if you can't find a shallot, grab a red onion and it'll do the same thing for you. So I just get that peeling off. You don't want the peeling in the dressing because it's like that outer layer of onion. Whenever you do anything with an onion, you know, you think you're going to bite into that delicious onion ring and you realize it's the outside one. So we've got a small shallot. Part of what holds the vinaigrette together is the Dijon mustard. So Dijon mustard's pretty key in holding it together. Lucy's version, she shakes it in a jar, which is great when you're going to serve it right away, and it's great for when you don't use it all. You shake it before you use it again to bring everything back together. So this recipe will make a little bit more than 2 cups because you've got a cup of oil, almost a cup of vinegar. The shallots, I added a clove of garlic to it. And on your recipe there, I think I omitted olive oil. That's a pretty key. It's a pretty key ingredient. Lucy sent the salad to me, and I copied and pasted. Yes, I left off. There's a cup of olive oil in that vinaigrette. You're going to want to add that to your vinaigrette. So I usually, when I make it in the food processor, I usually throw in a couple cloves of garlic to add a little bit of flavor. Or if you have the already minced garlic, I really love this stuff too. It lasts for a long time in the fridge. It's already minced. It's a good product. This is available at Kroger and at Walmart. It's above the mushrooms at Kroger, below the fresh herbs, and at Walmart it's right near the fresh herbs.
Do you like that, William, better than the garlic you can get in a jar? You know, it's already
The
kinda
minced
cut
in
up?
oil?
Yeah.
I think I like this better than the minced in oil. This is certainly finer than that minced garlic. And I think it's just, there's something about it, it's just pure. It's not already absorbed the oil. I just like the garlic flavor from that a little bit better.
You don't use that if you're sauteing garlic, do you?
I usually use the whole cloves and I'll slice them.
I think because that other in the food doesn't get exposed to air. And
Right.
readily it stays fresher.
Yeah.
Right. That's definitely a good point.
And you don't bite into a chunk.
Yeah.
Right. Some salt and pepper. You can add it closer to the end, but I like to add it in the beginning so that it gets all mixed in. Lucy, what I did, and my family's cookbook is called I Don't Do It That Way, because we all have a recipe and we all change 1 or 2 things. Well, I got a 1-cup measuring cup, and I filled it what I thought was about 3/4 of the way with the balsamic vinegar, and then I finished it off with the white wine vinegar. So it's 3/4 of a cup and 1/8 of a cup. If you are using a small food processor like this one, make sure that it is more than a 2-cup food processor. Otherwise, you'll find out when there's balsamic vinegar flowing all across your counter.
I just do it in a big mason jar and keep it in the fridge for a couple of weeks.
It's really good that way. It's very fresh. In this dressing, you don't have to use a very special balsamic vinegar. If you have a nicer balsamic, the dressing, obviously will have more flavor. The same with the oil. I don't always use extra virgin olive oil, but in this, if you don't love the really strong flavor, you could mix vegetable oil and olive oil half and half or 80-20. In most restaurants, the mix that you use to make salad dressings is 80-20, 80% olive oil, 20% vegetable oil mix, but I'm waiting on that. So I've got the vinegar, the shallots, the garlic, the Dijon mustard, salt and pepper in there right now. And I'm just going to puree that to where it all gets mixed up. Okay, so Lucy shakes it, and that's how the emulsification happens. She shakes it vigorously in the jar, but for this version, I just slowly add it in to the vinegar mixture as I puree. And what you finish with, the longer you whip it, it's kind of like mayonnaise. You know, has everyone made mayonnaise in the food processor with the yolk and the lemon juice? What you have is emulsification. It's the whipped oil. The longer you whip it, the thicker your dressing will be. With this one, you don't want to go too long, otherwise your dressing will be thick and won't really toss well with the goat cheese and the avocado. But your finished product here is a nice smooth, let me do this so that I don't have that issue again. Just a nice smooth, almost, you know, if you go too long it will solidify in the refrigerator. But this way your oil will stay together with the vinegar, but but not too thick. Just have that emulsified.
Balsamic glazes.
I used the bottle, squeeze bottle. I love those. I love that on tomatoes with goat cheese. Well, that's, oh, absolutely.
I love the salted ones.
No, that was not a whole. No.
Your pistachios were in a jar. You didn't have to peel them or anything.
No. Oh, no. No. The
Very special salad if you do that.
Kroger, they're a little expensive. I think this was $9 for the pistachios, but please don't buy a bag and try to open that many pistachios. Please go for the $9. If you'd rather substitute, I guess you could substitute cashews or any other kind of nut that you'd like. I think a rich buttery nut like a cashew or a pistachio is best. But if you had walnuts in the fridge or freezer, I think any nut would work fine in the salad. Part of one of the things that I really like about the salad, I love cucumbers, but there are people that have texture. Hey, how are y'all doing? Come on in. We're just getting started. Sorry, we went ahead and started on the salad. All that you missed was the vinaigrette demo, and I can tell you all about it if you'd like. I love cucumbers. There are people with texture issues. I'm one of those people. I love cucumbers, but I despise cucumber seeds. There's just something about a cucumber seed. But the way that I do cucumbers, and Lucy does it the same way for her salad, I peel my cucumbers, and if you've had one of my classes before, you've probably seen this demo. But for those of you that haven't, there's a super easy way to get just the good stuff out of the cucumber and get rid of the stuff that is not my favorite. So you get a good peel on it, just cut it in half lengthwise, and that's where all the gross seeds are. All you do is take a spoon, take a spoon and core it just like that. You can leave them in half moons or you can dice them. Does anybody want to try it for themselves? Anybody want to find out how easy it is? It's so super easy. It's one of those little extra steps that if you do, I think it just makes the salad a little bit nicer. To have no seeds. And then to get down Sometimes if I do if I want to have just a green salad, I'll slice the cucumbers just into half moons, so they're good and bite-sized. Or if you prefer the dice, I always start lengthwise. And then you have the strips. These are the same strips that you would use in like a sushi roll. If you've taken my sushi workshop before, that's the length that I do in the sushi roll. And then I just go across that and do a good chop on those. So that's how you get to the peeled, the half moon, and the diced. All without the seeds. The other demo, and I've done this demo in a class before, some people have a hard time. How do I get just what I want out of the bell pepper and get rid of all the seeds and the white and the pit? What I do is I cut off the head and I cut off the butt. I cut off the ends, and I definitely save those. I use those. But as you can see, what you have there is just the center part of it. And to get rid of the white and the seeds, I usually cut off just one side of it to where you can see into it. And then I roll it around and go around it with a knife. So I'll cut down there, and then you just use your knife. Can everybody see? Just use your knife and you can it keeps rolling. Oop. And if you get to the end and you're not comfortable doing it that way, you can just cut it off. So you've gotten rid of all the stuff that you don't want, the pit and all that you have left is the good part of the bell pepper. You can clean it up so that all that pit's gone. So if you want strips, you just cut it lengthwise like that. And then if you need a good dice, all you have to do is line your strips up and chop those. That way you get a good dice. Any questions about that? You notice that I used the green bell pepper instead of one of those $2 red ones to do my demo.
Why do you think that they're so much more expensive to have a different color than green?
I think just because they're so much better. I don't know if one pepper's harder to grow than another. It seems ridiculous. And everybody knows that the goat cheese is available. I know it's available at Walmart in that cheese display right inside the door to the right. Kroger has a couple different varieties. They have an herb goat cheese, a plain goat cheese. They have crumbled goat cheese. They had a honey goat cheese at one time that was amazing. That would be awesome. So if you're adventurous and want to take a chance on some goat cheese, it might be good in the salad.
So is there anything in particular or in goat cheese? Some of it tastes goatier than others. This was pretty mild and very flavorful.
I think just a better brand. Usually there's not a whole lot of varieties. If they offer a goat cheese, it's usually a pretty standard one. Sorry, I threw this one away. But this Silver Goat, that's the brand that I seem to always grab. It doesn't. Lucy's.
Isn't there somebody down south of town that makes goat cheese?
If you go to the farmer's market
Yeah.
on the weekends, the dairy from the farmer's market, they make a goat cheese that.
They didn't come this summer, but they sell at the one in Jackson at Fairgrounds.
Yeah. So I'm going to not on your recipe card, but because everything's in the oven and going now, the pork is about to come out and rest. So I wanted to go ahead and get the green beans started. There's not a recipe for the green beans on your card, just because I didn't think you needed a recipe to roast green beans. To make this one a little more interesting, I'm going to add some diced red onions and a little garlic. Very simple. There's a convenience section in Kroger that I love. They usually have the vegetables 2 for $5. Oh, sorry, I think that's 2. And they're always either the Brussels sprouts that I love. They're already the butt's cut off and they're cut in half. The green beans are already stemmed. And my favorite part of that section is finding the manager specials, where they're marked down even more to $1.99 or something. But these green beans came out of the bigger bag, but all I did, they were already stemmed, so all I had to do is blanch them. And that's something that you can do right before you put them on the pan to slide them in the oven, right before you roast them. All I did was get a pot of boiling water, drop them in 2 minutes, then strain them. If I was doing this for dinner coming home from work, they would go right from the boiling water, strain right into the mixing bowl to mix whatever I was going to flavor them with. For today, let's do just some diced red onions, and then a little bit of our garlic just for flavor. And then if you prefer butter would be fine, but you just need a little bit of oil to help them brown. And salt and pepper always. So the part of blanching really does the cooking of your beans. They're al dente here, where you can still snap it al dente to the tooth, to where they're still not completely done, but they're cooked enough that all that you're really doing in the roasting is heating them. They might cook just a little bit beyond the al dente, but you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, tell me about blanching. You said 2 minutes, but do they just sit in what was boiling water, or do they sit on the stove?
No, you get your water. Your water's on high, and it's a rolling boil. You drop your vegetable in, depending on the thickness. Now, if you have some jumbo asparagus, it might take closer to 3 minutes to blanch them, but you will see the color change from the faded green to the bright, crisp green. If you're not going to use it immediately, you want to stop that cooking process. That's why usually you'll see on TV that they'll go from boiling water into ice water bath. I usually, if I'm not going to use it right away, I'll go from the strainer onto a sheet pan, slide it in the freezer, and that'll stop the cooking really quickly. But if you're not going to use it right away, you want to stop the cooking so that your vegetables don't turn to mush. That might have been a long answer to your question. Sorry.
Does that leave them crispy?
Yes, sir. They'll be al dente, just to the tooth. It will leave them to where you can al dente. Right, that's the Italian translation. How you cook pasta and vegetables, al dente.
That means lightly cooked?
It means that crisp.
You can bite into it. It's not mushy.
So I might have been a little aggressive on my ratio of beans to ball.
On the rolling thing, did you on the tossing thing? Did you have a class on the?
I know how to get it all in there. Well, we're gonna I think it's about time to pull that pork, and we'll slide in the beans. I've got to run and check on the oven. I'll be right back. While we're roasting the green beans, I'll tell you about the pork, about the potatoes, and you know how these beans are done. Oh. We'll let everybody peek at the pork. So we've got the roasted pork loin. It's encrusted with thyme, rosemary, and basil. Hey, come on in. So what the pork is doing now, it's what's called standing. It's finished. It's almost finished cooking. So we pulled it out of the oven. I've wrapped it back in foil, and going to let the heat continue to cook the pork. The goal of this is to, one, finish cooking, but two, when you slice into it, you know, if you slice into something right off the grill, all of your juice runs out and your meat's dry. So your meat won't get cold. It will just stand wrapped in the foil. In this recipe, the herb-encrusted pork loin, I did a pork loin so that you would have the recipe, but if I were doing this for a couple, I would buy the pack of pork tenderloins. And one of the pork tenderloins is plenty of protein for a couple. So I would do I like a lot of herbs on it. So I would do this recipe and do the 2 pork tenderloins in the pack. That might seem like a lot because those pork tenderloins are usually, the pack of 2 is 1.5 pounds and down of those. So the pack of pork tenderloins is usually, that's how they're packed, 1.5 pounds and down. So each tenderloin would be, right. Well, that's how they're usually packed. If you prefer, they have the smaller pork loins at Kroger. Those are right in front of the already cut steaks. They're called Moist and Tender. I know that's a terrible name. But it is packed by Hormel. And that product is injected with saline. It's not to preserve it, it's to make it tender. And that is a really good product. Restaurants use it in all different kinds of applications, but that is a particularly good product. Kroger is packed by Hormel. So you'll see Hormel packaging and labeling on Kroger brands of that product. The Kroger, like the ribs that we did at the grilling workshop, those were the same Moist and Tender. But for this one, it's very simple. And I definitely used fresh herbs. I love the fresh herbs, and if it were the right time of year, I would have basil. I did have some thyme, but my time was lemon thyme, and I didn't want to risk it on this. And then the fresh rosemary. If you use the dried herbs, it just takes more to get the same effect. The fresh herbs, and hopefully you can taste the flavor on this one. The fresh herbs, I chopped my herbs, mixed it with the salt, the garlic, the olive oil, mixed it all, and I rubbed the pork loins and let them sit today. And we just finished roasting them, obviously. So it had time to marinate and absorb all the fresh herb flavor. Then it's just simple, just roast it. Now, obviously, you have to adjust the time if you're going to do a smaller pork loin. The timings on that recipe are for the large pork loins, so don't overdo it. For I do. You want to get it pork above 160. What did I say in the recipe? 155, 160. That'll be north of medium. That'll be medium well, medium well. If you don't do medium well pork, if you like it done all the way, it will dry out. But hopefully, if you roast it, let it stand, even all the way done pork will still be moist. I'm sorry.
Well, seeing your basil, I was in Kroger's this past Thursday, and I was looking for basil, because, again, you can't find it. And I saw it in packaging, it didn't look good, but I walked over and saw the fresh that's growing, actually, that you could plant if you wanted to.
Right.
But the leaves were absolutely fresh and gorgeous and smelt great, and I used all that. I don't know.
Sure.
You know
Well,
what I'm talking about, the ones that you could plant, they had over there?
well, I almost never go to Walmart. Walmart's that place
But it
that,
was Kroger's.
right.
Yeah.
Well, Kroger had no fresh basil today.
Yeah, seriously.
So I made the trek to Walmart. There is a good product, and it would work fine in this application. The already minced basil, that the same brand, Gourmet Garden. They make tubes of the fresh basil, tubes of the fresh cilantro. I think they don't do shallots in this.
They used to.
They do?
They used to, but they don't, and red onion. They don't
Red
do either
onion,
anymore.
minced red onion.
They don't do either anymore.
Well, there's a good variety of these at Walmart and at Kroger. Kroger's just above the mushrooms. But the fresh basil like this would work in this application. And I think this product would be far better than a dried basil. If you choose to use dried herbs in this recipe, you might go ahead and mix your olive oil and herbs ahead of time, and it's almost like you're rehydrating the herbs. Let the herbs absorb that oil and come back to life. It wouldn't hurt to do that for an hour or two before you put it on to the pork. If you want to go crazy and make this really interesting, you could rub the pork with Creole mustard or Dijon mustard before you put the herbs on it. Be creative. There are no rules to this one. It's the basic recipe gives you an idea of what to go from, but be as creative as you like with the recipe. The other side tonight, and I must have, I don't know if it was technology, if it was me that day, the garlic roasted baby Yukon Golds. That's a very simple recipe. The baby Yukon Golds are packaged different. Did I throw that away?
I think you did.
Yeah.
I will
Whoops.
dig.
I know. The baby Yukon Golds are packaged several different ways and sold different ways. There are fingerlings, even the Peruvian blue potatoes. I like the baby Yukon Gold because they're so buttery and rich. But this recipe will work with any smaller potato. If you just have some red potatoes, new potatoes, anything that you like. I quartered them this time because they were a little larger than usual. The smaller ones I just halved. But what I do at home, and I have different kinds of sheet pans. One of my sheet pans is the Furlong that has the non-stick coating. What I do to make these really good, I slice the garlic, and for this application, I use the fresh peeled garlic and just slice it very thinly, toss it with the olive oil, kosher salt, and I used white pepper on these. I like white pepper on potatoes because it's a little milder pepper. But on this one, for at-home use, and even if you just do it in a smaller version, if you have a different pan or something that's the non-stick coated like Furlong, if you olive oil and put the cut side down, you'll get the good sear on the potato that really adds something. The crust on the outside of that potato seals it in, and it just makes it awesome. Those potatoes should be ready. Our meat's almost finished resting. I need to check on the green beans, and we will start plating dinner very shortly.
How long do you rest the meat?
About 15 minutes. I'll finish the demo from the salad. The last thing that I didn't get to finish before we had to start on the entree, I didn't want you guys to starve tonight, is the avocado. And there are different ways to get to an avocado, but the way that I find the simplest, I start on the end and I just roll the avocado around my knife. I hold the knife in one place and just go all the way around it. That way, if your avocado is ripe, you should just be able to twist and it come apart. So when you get there, and Lucy did it differently than I do. Everybody's got a different way. You want to get rid of that seed, so all you have to do is that. I like to cut my avocado before I take it out of the shell. Lucy took it out of the shell and then cut it. Just depending on how skilled you are with a knife, and how sharp your knives are. I usually, well, these you kind of go across and you just make a crisscross pattern. It takes almost no effort if your avocado is ripe. Then the trick is just the spoon. Then all of your pieces just fall out. Hopefully, if it all goes to plan.
Well, how does one know how to pick a good avocado?
Got to reach up and grab it.
Soft?
If you're going to have it that day, soft is fine. The problem with soft is you can't tell how soft it is. Usually, rule of thumb is it should still have the little seed on the end of it. If it does not have the little seed on the end of it, it may be over-ripened. If it is beyond, how do you put it? Like it's like how you pick mangoes. Right, if it's soft like a tomato, you're probably...
Don't buy it unless you're gonna mash it up into something.
Right. But you want it less that you want to be able to kind of have some give in it. Lucy's way, she scoops it first, and if you're good at it, you don't waste too much of it that way. That's one thing that I like. So there's almost no waste, and you have a perfect half. That way you can kind of slice it any way that you like. If you want to just do slices for a sandwich, or if you just want to leave them in slices for your salad, that's a different way to do it. Or sushi, right? That's the way to do it for sushi. So Lucy's gone to check on the potatoes. This pork is probably close to ready to slice. Did we take enough time with that avocado demo to get the pork to...
What temperature do you use for your green beans?
Well, everything was done tonight at 425, just because the pork was at 425 and I had one oven. But you'll obviously adjust your time a little bit for the green beans. The higher temperature that you roast it, the more sear you'll get. This pork looks like it's right to slice. I know those potatoes are done, so I know what I need to do. I know I need to put a towel under this because it will be juicy. Does anybody have any questions about the last demo, the avocado or the salad or anything before we go on? Ooh.
I was going to ask you about the pork tenderloin. Do you ever take the silver skin off before you cook it?
I usually don't. The silver skin on that is usually thin enough that if you do get it, it's not that noticeable. But something like a beef tenderloin is larger and the silver skin's stronger. What I don't like about taking the silver skin off is that you lose the fat around it, and I think the fat around it kind of helps it cook and keeps in some of the moisture. If it's a texture issue, get rid of it. But it does take a little bit of knife skill to get the silver skin off and not lose much meat. For that, I usually use either a fillet knife or a chef knife. And what I do is I put it on the cutting board and I flatten it out. I kind of rub across it. And then I get the tip of my knife and go under it. And then turn the tip of my knife up and pull against it. And then you have a strip that you can pick up and you can come back and carve upwards again. That way you lose almost none of the meat and you can get the silver skin off. That's kind of one of the tricks, the over and up. Well, it's a little bit of work, but if the texture of that, if your meat's not firm enough and you slice it and then you bite into that piece, it kind of loses the wow of the flavor of it. This one, all right. So let's take a poll. Would everyone prefer like a steak thickness, or would you like a couple thinner slices? Thin? Okay. Then we can do that for sure.
How long did you let it sit with your herbs? You said you did it this morning.
I did it this morning. I mixed up the herb mixture and rubbed it on and left it, just left it for the day. You can do it as far ahead of time as you'd like. If you'd like to do it the night before and leave it in the fridge, that'd be fine too. Ooh, this herb mixture would be really good on chicken. Any kind of, if you did it on like a, I think it would be really good if you did a flank steak or skirt steak. If you buy those, this herb mixture on it before you grilled it, I think would be really good. Really just about any protein, I think fresh herbs would be delicious on.
Even when one grills meat, do you let it rest a certain amount of time?
Yes, ma'am. You'd want to let it rest at least 10 minutes before you slicing into it, depending on the thickness. Like this. For dessert, we have strawberry pie. And the inspiration for that strawberry pie, there's a diner in Shreveport called Strawn's. It's in the old part of Shreveport by Centenary College. They have the best strawberry pie on earth. And this is my take on Strawn's strawberry pie. It's a very simple recipe. It is just strawberries, sugar, water, and cornstarch. The water and cornstarch are just for a thickener. And you'll see it when you receive yours, but I turn this recipe into an individual serving. I use the individual pie shells that are available at Walmart and Kroger. And are we close to getting that many on the table? And so I turned a full-size recipe into something that you can do just for a few. Even though you'll probably wind up making at least a full recipe so that you have leftovers for this one. Ooh.
Lucy, would you substitute feta cheese or goat in your salad?
You can do feta, but it's going to give a sharper flavor, and you won't get the creamy dressing effect. However, Mrs. Udine's recipe used feta cheese, so that would be more traditional.
I'm gonna slide down. Oh. They are.
Christy's got one. She's got others, but.
I am the restaurant manager at Diamond Jack's Casino. Okay. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Wanda's not there anymore. She went to Drago's. She went to Drago's. Yeah. Well, I've worked with her for a long time, and I hated it. Ma'am.
Most of the pork loins I've had, I don't care for because they're too dry. This is the best one I've had.
Well, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the pork? Everything good? I wish I would have made a fourth loaf of bread to offer more bread with the entree.
I wish you had too.
Really good too.
Can you tell them about the bread?
The bread, it's so simple. Thank you. I bought the dough. They sell frozen bread dough at Kroger. It's right by their frozen yeast roll balls. And when I wake up in the morning before I go to work, I take one out of the freezer, spray the pan, and drop it in there. It's usually proofed or close to proofed by the time I get home from work. You slide it in the oven, it takes about 20 to 25 minutes to bake. And it's fresh bread. It's good. Thank you. And we'll do just a little dollop on top of each one. You want to do the whipped cream or do you want to do this? You sure? I can.
Send me that and then you send me the menu, yeah.
Angie has my contacts. Well, thank you so much. Do you want to take a couple of these home?
Sure.
Is she making dessert?
No, she's not making dessert.
Is the recipe for the pie is like the other recipes tonight. It's a standard recipe, but you can see that we did it a different way. We did it in individual servings. That recipe, if you buy the box of 8 individual pie shells, will be just about right to make 8 individual pies. So the only thing that you would do differently is the pie shell. And the whipped cream, I almost always sweeten whipped cream, but I think for this, the sweetness that you get from the strawberry mixture in the pie is sweet enough so you want the cream unsweetened. If you prefer sweetened whipped cream, you can obviously add a little powdered sugar to it, but this is just lightly whipped cream over the strawberry pie.